I'm hoping I'm live. I'm just going to give it a second or two and just see if anybody pops up. It's always that kind of hesitant moment when you just hope that your technology is working. Oh yes, I can see a couple of people are watching me, so hello and welcome to Izzy's Crafty Bees. It's Tuesday and it's the 4th of January. It's a very exciting day because our new January to June mini catalogue and celebrations start today, so it's really exciting. The reason I'm going live, oh morning Michelle, oh it's afternoon, yes, hello, it is afternoon. Thank you and Happy New Year everyone. So yes, the reason I'm live today is because it's Tuesday and I love to go live on a Tuesday. But it's equally exciting because we've got new catalogues, new goodies, and I can finally open the cover of the catalogue and show you some bits and pieces inside. But before I do any of that, I'm just going to start with my usual welcome. Welcome to Izzy's Crafty Bees. I am Izzy Shashinsky and I am an independent Stampin' Up demonstrator here in the United Kingdom. I'm in the north, well, I'm in the Midlands. I always think I'm in the north because I'm from the north, but I'm actually in the Midlands in Nottinghamshire. So yes, welcome to my Facebook Live this Tuesday, and I always start by saying just a couple of things that have made me happy. And one thing, before I sort of launch into that, I picked up a magazine. I subscribe to a couple of magazines and I picked up one of my newest ones and opened the cover, and of course it's full of New Year things, new you, new this, new that, New Year resolutions and all of that jazz. Now, something you may or may not know about me is I used to actually be a coach, and I was a life coach for a lot of years. I had a private practice, and then 3 years ago I took early semi-retirement and I actually went back to my working roots, and I now have a part-time admin job, part of my progress to full retirement. And I gave up my life coaching practice. But one of the things that I never ever did when I was a life coach or I was coaching others was set New Year resolutions, because I'm a massive believer in making change when you feel change is necessary. However, back to the magazine, one thing that I absolutely loved that I saw in this magazine was golden moments, and the article was encouraging you to make a journal or keep notes of things that make you happy. And I thought, oh gosh, have they heard me? Did they see me go live? And they titled it Making a List of Golden Moments, and I loved that. I thought, gosh, that's just so lovely. So here are a couple of my golden moments from the last week. One was just yesterday, and my friend Helen came to visit with her hubby Dave. And some of you may know Helen Holden already, especially in the Stampin' Up world. And Helen was very poorly last year. She had a brain aneurysm, and it's a long road to recovery. She's still on that road to recovery. And it was lovely that they came to visit yesterday. We had a super afternoon. We had lots of tea and lots of panettone and lots of chat. So that was one of my golden moments this week. Another golden moment for me was getting out in the sunshine in the garden. Actually, on Sunday, managed to just sneak a couple of hours in the garden. It's very rare in the depths of a British winter that it's actually dry enough to do some gardening. I love my garden, and I had spotted a few things that just needed to get sorted, so I got my wellies on, got my coat and my hat on, and it was glorious in the sunshine. So that was a golden moment for me. And one of the things that kept me happy in the garden, as well as the hard work, was little Mr. Robin. Because I was digging, Mr. Robin had a feast, because every time I turned the ground over, he bobbed along and followed maid behind me and had a feast of worms. So they were just some of my golden moments. And I hope all of you have also managed to have some golden moments over the last week or so. So anyway, let's get crafting. That's what it's all about. I'm going to flip my camera around and press the right button. So let me put on my glasses and then I can make sure I get the right button, because once I pressed the finish button by accident. We haven't finished yet, so I'm going to stand up. Now, I will also just tell you that I have swapped my chair for a kneeling chair. Oh, my camera's really wobbly. Let me just see if I can make that a bit flatter and a bit better. Yes, I've swapped my chair for a kneeling chair, and I'm just still getting used to it in my craft room. So if you hear a crash and a bang and a wallop, it's me falling onto the floor. So I'm just going to say a very quick few hellos to people I can see who are watching. So very quickly, along the pictures on the top, I can see Sylvia, I can see Sue, I can see Brenda. I think my mum was there. Who else can I see? Helen. I can see Michelle, and I think there's a couple more that I can't see the pictures of. So hello and thank you for watching anyway. Let me take a kneeling seat and I am going to just have a quick chat. So yes, 4th of January to the 28th of February we have our first celebration for 2022. There will be another round of celebration in the summertime, but for 2 months it's fantastic because we get free items, and I'm now able to open the catalogue. I'm not going to do a full catalogue tour. I'm going to actually do a catalogue, mini catalogue launch at some point, perhaps during this week. I've just not quite scheduled that in yet. But as you can see, as I turn the pages really quickly, we've got some beautiful items that you can actually get for free. Stamp sets, papers, beautiful papers, gorgeous colours, more papers, more stamp sets. This one is, I think, my favourite, and I haven't got it yet. Some papers and a stamp set to match, and you can get both of those together if you spend £90. So we have 2 price points to watch out for during celebration. For every £45 you spend, you earn a freebie. And we have items that are £45 price point, so we call that level 1, £45, £45. And then we have a couple of items in here that if you spend £90, you can actually earn these items. So this is the first one. It's a stamp set with some matching papers. If you spend £90, you can get those for free. And the other one is a wonderful sentiment stamp set, and if you spend £90 you can get this stamp set for free. There are also other things that you can do during celebration. Now we use the term host, so if you share the fun and host a party or host an event at home, or indeed if you actually place a single order and the total value of the order is £275 or more, then you will earn this free stamp set. And if you're considering joining Stampin' Up either as a hobby demonstrator or as an active demonstrator like myself, then you can choose your starter kit. As always, you pay £99 and you choose £130 worth of products from any of the catalogues, the annual or the mini. But during celebration, you can also add on to that £130 worth of product. You can choose an extra 2 stamp sets, any stamp set from any of the live publications, the mini catalogue or the annual catalogue. So it's a great time to join. So that's just a really exciting bit about celebration. Like I say, I'm going to actually demonstrate today, so I'm not going to linger too much, but I do want to finally open the mini catalogue and just share with you the products I'm going to be using today. So inside there's this fabulous suite. I'm just going to make sure I can actually see all of this on the camera. Fab. Okay, so the Heart and Home Suite. Now I just want to remind you all what a suite of products is. It's a collection of products that all coordinate together, and you can actually buy the entire suite for one price point using one item code, or you can buy the components, different individual components of the suite, like pick and mix. So I always think suite, sweets, pick and mix, that's the way I remember it. And today I'm going to show you the Designer Series paper, one of the stamp sets and one of the die sets from the suite, and I will just show you a couple of other things that I have purchased, but I'm not going to use today. I've purchased the doilies, the embossing folder and the ribbon, and I will share them, but I'm going to use this stamp set. Of course I had to have it as soon as I saw it because it's got bees and flowers and it's just absolutely right up my street. Now one thing I will point out is this logo here, distinctive. It's a distinctive stamp set, so let me just bring this close to the camera. So this logo here, distinctive, and distinctive means that it's a particular type of image. So it's not a crisp, clear, black outline image like some of our other stamp sets, like this one for example. It's a distinctive stamp set and it gives you a more natural or sort of photographic type of image. Perfect for adding colour, really lovely, a bit softer than maybe the dark, crisp, solid black outline or outline type image stamp sets. So that's the page in the catalogue, page 60 to 61 for the images and page 58 to 59 for the entire suite collection. Beautiful collection, just absolutely gorgeous if you like nature and flowers and these lovely soft kind of vintagey images. So that's what I'm going to be using. So here's the stamp set, Honeybee Home. I'm just going to pop my catalogues to one side, and here are the Honeybee Blooms dies. I'm going to just show them how they come to you. Now they don't come on a magnetic sheet. I actually always add a magnetic sheet to my dies when they arrive, and the other thing that I add is one of these Velcro dots because I just find popping the tab through the hole sometimes a little bit, well, it's just easier to use a Velcro dot. So that's how I customise my dies when I receive them. So you can see in the die set we have some outline dies, so they actually die cut directly the images in the stamp set. This pretty flower image. Oh, I'm a bit wibbly wobbly today. I think I'm a bit cold. Not got the heating on. Yes, so we've got, let me just see which one's which. Oh, I always get these the wrong way around. Is that my bee? That's my bee up there. So we've got the ones that, the dies that cut out direct the images from the stamp set, and then we've got these additional dies that just give us some extra pieces of foliage and flowers. So these can be just used on their own. So two lovely flowers and this piece of foliage, and they're lovely to add to your projects. We've got some sweet sentiments. I'm just going to tip those back onto my magnetic sheet so I don't lose them. We've got some sweet sentiments in here. It's nice to have a best of luck. I don't think I've got many stamp sets with best of luck. And such happy news. So glad we're family. Miss you. Stay wonderful, which I absolutely love. And I've already used on a card. And you're the nicest. So let me just pull out of my box a couple of cards. Oh gosh, they've got buried in the box somewhere. Here's a couple of cards I made a couple of weeks ago. I know I've got two. Where's the other one disappeared to? Here we are. So I started with a vintage type look. Lots of just, you know, this is a card where you just throw everything at it. I've used an embossing folder from the annual catalogue, the Time One type I think it's called. I've stamped the bee and coloured it. I've stamped two of the floral images, Stay Wonderful and Fussy Cut the Sentiment. I've really gone to town and layered this up. I've used not only the doily, but I've used a piece of vellum on top and really just thrown the works at this card. And I've used the bookbind fold just for something different. And I'm not going to be demonstrating these today, but I just thought I'd show you just some different types. Now this one, if you like clean and simple, has a lot more white space, and you can see I've stamped this image quite delicately behind. I've just used basic grey, or I may have even used smoky slate, I think. Just added a tiny bit of pink. And then this is the die that die cuts this piece, and I've just added a tiny bit of colour to the flowers and left the bee monochrome. Added a sentiment, and I've popped the whole lot up on dimensionals. I made a circle aperture, just quite a simple card. So two very different images, or two very different finished looks. I just wanted to share those with you today. So the other products that I'm going to use today for this project, which is a standing desk calendar, and it's formed just like an easel card. So the other products I'm going to throw into the mix today are, I've used Playful Alphabet die set for the 2022 year, the numbers. Maybe you've overlooked this because, being a bit daft like I am, I ordered the Playful Alphabet dies because I needed an alphabet die set, and I hadn't even realised that it included numbers from 1 to 0. So we've got all the numbers in there, and I didn't realise that it also included the ampersand, hashtag, question marks. Let me just pop number 1 up there before I lose it. All these different signs and symbols, as well as the alphabet. So I just wanted to share with you that. Now I've actually pre-cut my 2022 numbers for the project today, so I can actually pop that completely to one side. And the other dies I've used is my ever so wonderful Stitch So Sweetly that I use so very much, and I've used the scalloped rectangle for the actual months, and I have used this, I call it the biggest label, I guess, for the, oh no I haven't, I've used the middle label for the background just for the year. So I'm going to pop that to one side as well, because I have actually done some prep for this project. You'll be pleased to know you don't need to sit and watch me stamp every single month, but I'm going to just demonstrate a couple of months, and I'm going to demonstrate how I structured the actual calendar base. Now one thing I will point out is on my original I actually went to the extreme of, oh I've just pulled that off the front, I went to the extreme of making a box to store my months in, and I've decided that for this demonstration it was just a piece of crafting too far. I didn't need to construct a box, because the way that this desk calendar stands, you can actually store your months just behind. So we have, when it's standing, I'm just going to turn that around, we have a space here that is absolutely the perfect size to store your spare months. So here we go. So who's just made a colossal wish list? Ah, Shaz, yes, absolutely. I've got a huge wish list for this new catalogue. So let me just stand the project then, but just slightly off camera, maybe we'll just be able to still see it. And I'm just going to, oh, before I move on, let's just clear my space. I want to just share with you the designer series paper from the suite, because it really is fab. And the catalogues always show our products, but never as nicely as when you actually see them in person. I'm actually going to do a different colour for this project, for this demonstration. I'm actually going to go with this piece of DSP. It's really pretty, and I'm going to use garden green as my base, and you can see I've pre-cut some of the pieces. Every single piece of this designer series paper is double-sided, and we have a patterned side, beautifully coloured pattern side. Then the reverse sides of all of the designer series paper are like a wood plank. Different wood planks, but they're all wood planks, which is fantastic. What that means for me is that I've got something really nice and neutral for those projects that just call for something a bit less fancy. So particularly masculine cards, although some of these I would probably use this one as a masculine card as well. So that's side 1 with the lovely honeybees. And side 2 we've got some diagonal wood planks. And this one, which is the one I'm going to use for this project. And on the other side we've got some broader wood planks. And they're all in grey, so let's just quickly try and be quick and flick through them. This is pretty. This I'll go through the colours as well. This really pretty pattern flower, and that's the one I used on my original, and that's another broad wood plank. This one I absolutely love because I love blue. On the other side, just wood grain, no plank, just wood grain. Nice. Another pretty floral, and the other side just some nice grey wood planks, and garden green, ditzy leaves, and again some more wood planks. So really versatile pack of designer series paper. I'm sure it's not going to end up in sort of left on the shelf. I think I'll be using every single scrap of this. So let me just throw that to one side, trying not to fall off my kneeling up chair. I'm doing well so far. And I just quickly share with you the doilies. We haven't had paper doilies for a while, and these come in 3 different colours, which I believe are Misty Moonlight, and really pretty. I'll just take them individually and then you can actually see the pattern. And on the other side they're white, so you could ink the other side and use the reverse. So Misty Moonlight, I think this is Cinnamon Cider, I will just check, and Basic Grey. Let's just try and hold that so the camera gets that focus. And Basic Grey, and like I say, they're all white on the other side. So let me just go back to, I promised I would read out the colours. So on the back of the designer series paper we have Basic Grey, Cinnamon Cider, Fresh Freesia is that pale purple colour, Garden Green, Misty Moonlight, Pale Papaya, and White. So they're the colours. And lastly, the other product that I've got from the suite that I will share with you is the denim ribbon. Now this is interesting because we actually had this ribbon a little while ago, and it's something that's returned, which I've never known Stampin' Up do before. I'd actually got a little bit left on the spool and it had gone into my retired drawer, and I was so thrilled to see it come back. It's a lovely ribbon. It's quite soft and it's nice to tie. It's what I call a grippy ribbon. So when you tie it, it doesn't slip. It's nice and grippy, so you can tie a really good bow and it grips. It doesn't slip and slide around. So it's nice to handle, yet it's soft and it drapes really nicely. So I really like that. And of course it's blue and it's denim, and they're my favourite things, favourite colours. So, right, okay, enough. Let's crack on. So I'm going to start with the base of this calendar, and I'm going to just grab my notes. I'm going to just bring my stamps in, and the ink I'm going to use some Garden Green. I'm actually going to use some Calypso Coral to colour, to use on the calendar, and I'm going to use Calypso Coral markers as well, and some Basic Grey and Memento ink. I'm going to be using some Stampin' Blends, so the alcohol markers to be colouring in the flowers. So I'm going to use some of those, and I'm just going to grab my notes because I want to make sure. It's a couple of weeks since I actually made this. I made this original before Christmas and planned to demonstrate it, and then things got in the way. Things called Christmas and planning and things. So the base, for the base of the calendar itself, you're going to take a piece of A4 cardstock, and like I say, I've used Garden Green, and you're going to actually cut it in half lengthways. So you're going to cut it in half. You're going to measure 10.5 centimetres on your trimmer and simply cut it full length. You're then going to turn it so it's landscape in your trimmer, and I will just get my trimmer and just show you what I did. So those of you who are new can follow if you've never made an easel card before. So I've popped my A4 piece in, I've measured 10.5 centimetres and I've trimmed it full length. Then I turn this piece around and I'm actually going to score at just shy of 15, or you can score actually bang on 15 centimetres. So one score line here. Then you're going to move it down and you're going to score at 7.5 centimetres. Another score line here, and what that gives you is the base with this folding piece that will pop up, so it's like an easel. So that's your base. You then need another piece, so from your other half that you've cut, this should measure 10.5. You're then going to actually cut that down to 15, so you need another piece that's 15 centimetres by 10.5 centimetres, and we're going to stick that to the front of the easel, and that will form your basic easel card. Now you can decorate this base as a card to send. It folds flat. If you want to decorate it as a birthday card or an anniversary card or whatever, you can actually decorate that and fold it. It folds flat. You will always need something here for the recipient to pop the easel and have a stop. So tying some ribbon round and a bow here would help, or just pop something up, a sentiment using dimensionals. So that's the piece, they're the pieces that you need for the base. You also need 2 pieces of designer series paper to decorate, and we need one to layer up the front, and we need one the same measurement to actually decorate the inside. And the measurements for these pieces of designer series paper are 10 centimetres by 14.8 centimetres. Let me just double check my measurements. I'm pretty sure, yes, 10 centimetres by 14.8 centimetres. And the only thing I will say with regard to the designer series paper is be mindful of the pattern when you're cutting, because bear in mind that this will be standing up on your desk, and so you want to be mindful of the pattern if you've got a direction. So we've now got those 2 pieces. The piece that you cut off the end, this, you'll be left with a little tiny strip of designer series paper like this. Don't pop that in the bin yet, just keep that to one side and you'll see what we're going to use that for. You'll also need some scrap in the same colour as your base to die cut your numbers if you're going to make it faithfully to my design here. And you will need another piece that, instead of making a box, I'm going to use another piece to decorate the front to actually pop my calendar dates on. And this piece measures, let me just have a look, 10.5 centimetres by 7 centimetres. So that's that piece. You will also need 12 pieces of basic white cardstock, using the Stitched So Sweetly to cut into pieces this size. And let me just, I'm just going to grab, I've just popped them to one side, I'm going to grab the Stitched So Sweetly and show you which one I used. It's the second largest of the rectangle stitched scalloped dies. So if you do have this die set, and again you want to replicate my desk calendar exactly, that's the size to use, and you need to cut yourself 12 of those, one for every month. And you also need to cut yourself the piece to decorate the front, which I seem to have mislaid somewhere, but I'm sure it will rock up when I get going. I think it's probably in my big box. To pop the numbers, you'll need a piece of basic white scrap to stamp your images as well. Now, you'll be pleased to know that I've gone ahead, I've just left myself 2 of those pieces to stamp April and May. Oh, there it is, I knew it'd turn up. And I've gone ahead and stamped all the other months, and I'm going to show you now how I stamped them, and then we will do some assembly. So let me just pop those bits and pieces that I've pre-cut to one side, and get rid of the trimmer. And I am going to take a kneeling down seat. I kneel before you to craft Oh, it is a form of religion, isn't it? Maybe. Okay, so I'm going to use Stamperatus to actually stamp the months. And the only thing I'm going to stamp using Stamperatus is the actual month and the days of the week. Then I'm actually going to stamp the numbers using a stamp on a block. And I'm going to be using this stamp set, Days to Remember, which is from the annual catalogue. And I'm just going to share with you which page, because I've got it bookmarked. So in the annual catalogue, it's page 18, and it's a photopolymer stamp set, and it's £16. And I bought it right at the beginning of this annual catalogue last year. I've used it a couple of times for anniversary cards. It's lovely to use for anniversary cards. As well as the months of the year, you get some little images, and I particularly liked this. Really simple, squiggly line, stamp the month, stamp the dates, and then we have this gorgeous little circle. It's like a freehand circle, and you can ring the date. You can then make a really wonderful anniversary card, and I made an anniversary card for my sister and brother-in-law's ruby wedding last year. So don't just think that this is all about making calendars. It's wonderful. It has happy birthday, a day to remember, don't forget, it's your day, some balloons, some little images that are really great. You can stamp the heart, for example, over the top of the number, and it makes a really great card. So I'm going to be using that stamp set. So what I did with my Stamperatus, and I will own up, my name is Izzy, and I confess that I do not use my Stamperatus stamp positioning tool nearly as much as I should do. And the reason for that is because I'm quite a quick and speedy crafter. Usually I get my pieces out and I just put the stamps on a block and stamp them. So with my pre-die cut piece, I've actually prepared my grid sheet in my Stamperatus. You can see I've got some arrows, and I'm going to use one of my magnets to hold that piece down. So the arrows I gave myself were where the die cut rectangle was to be positioned, but I've also got an arrow here for this line and an arrow here for the centre. And what I want to do is stamp the days of the week, and you get two choices with this stamp set. You can start your week with Monday, which is what I've chosen to do, or you can start your week with Sunday. So I'm just going to take out the Monday stamp, or the days of the week stamp that starts with Monday, and the first thing I'm going to do is actually position that on my piece. Now you need to take your time, and I'm positioning it the right way round, and what I'm looking to do, take my time, and sometimes it's useful to use a tool that doesn't, that helps you to stop it from sticking to your fingers. I'm looking for Thursday to line up in the middle, and I'm looking for the days of the week to be lined up along this line. Now my head is back here, it's not over. If I was stamping this without the camera, I would have my eyes right over, so I could just check that that's nice and straight. Then the next thing I want to do is I want to close I've put one of my stamp positioning plates into the hinge, and I want to close that to pick that stamp up. So I now know that that is in the right position. I'm hoping it's straight. Now one thing I can do is take it out, and the Stamperatus actually has a grid printed on it. So because I don't want to get my head in shot, I'm just going to reposition that ever so slightly and just straighten it up a little bit using the grid on the actual plate. So there we go. So I'm hoping that my days of the week I can now go ahead and stamp. And I stamped the days of the week in basic grey. So I'm going to open my ink pad. I'm hoping this is in shot. Let me move my Stamperatus over a bit and just pop all these little bits to one side. Let's just move this over so you can see what I'm doing. So I've got my days of the week, and I'm going to use my ink pad and very carefully just ink, tap, 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 very gently. And I'm going to bring that, I keep wanting to call it a sheet, bring that plate over, and that will stamp the days of the week exactly where I want them. I'm going to leave the days of the week in position because I've got another month to do. So this is April I'm now stamping. So I've already got out of the stamp case the month of April, and I'm going to do exactly the same in terms of placing it the right way down up above the days of my week. And this time I'm taking note of the centre. So I want to look between the P and the R, or maybe the R, and get the R in the middle and hopefully get that somewhere near. Now this time I'm going to take out my plate, turn it around, place it back in the hinge, something that only Stamperatus, Stampin Up Stamperatus stamp positioning tool does. The other stamp positioning tools on the market do not have the open hinge and do not let you remove the actual plates. So I've now got a second side to this plate, and I'm going to pick up the month of April. Again, I can take it out and have a look and just see whether that's straight. I'm looking at the grid lines, and to be honest, I'm pretty happy with that. We'll just leave that as is. I'm going to move my basic grey out of the way, and for, let me just grab the others that I've already printed. Oh, there they are, look. Oh, look, and I've gone wrong already. I was looking at this one and I've stamped my days of the week in basic grey, when actually for this one I'd stamped them in garden green, but we won't stop, we'll carry on. I'm going to stamp my month in Calypso Coral, so tap, tap, tap. And once I've finished this demonstration, I can always make myself another one. And I'm going to bring that over and stamp the month of April right there up above. Now I'm going to take that one out and pop it to one side, and I'm going to fetch in the other one that I'd left to stamp May. I'm going to position that in the same place, pop my magnet on. I'm going to take April off, and I'm just going to drop April actually onto my stamp case, and I'll clean that later when I finish demonstrating. I'm going to just pop the month of May there, but I'm going to spin that back to the days of the week. This time I will use garden green. Let's do this one right. I'm going to use garden green, tap, 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 for the days of the week. And I bet you're all now thinking, thank goodness she's not going to do 12 of these, but I just wanted to show you a couple. I think my Sunday's on a bit of a wonk, and I think that's because I repositioned it when I turned it round. Because these are photopolymer stamps. Now I'm looking at May, and I'm remembering that May looks like it wants to run out. So I'm going to just take that, turn it round, grab May, and I'm just going to have a look and see, is May straight? I think it's straight enough. Straight enough. Sometimes we have to invite good enough to the party when Mr. and Mrs. Perfection are hovering in the corner shouting at us. Oh, I know, bonkers, but hey. Now, I've finished with Stamperatus, so I'm actually going to move Stamperatus out of the way. I'll leave those, in fact I'm just going to pop April back on so it doesn't get lost because it's a small stamp. I'm going to pop all of that to one side so I can clean that later when I've finished demonstrating. I've finished with Calypso Coral. I've finished with Garden Green. So I'll pop those away. And with Basic Grey, I'm actually going to show you how I stamp the dates. Now this stamp is fantastic. It's a big stamp. I have put it on my biggest block because I haven't got the one that's the next size, the long one, and I can't remember what number it is or letter it is. So I've popped it on my biggest. Now what we need to do is look at, and I'm just going to find January, February, March. So I've got March here, and I can work out that the 1st of April will be a Friday. So what I need to do, oh hang on, am I doing this right? Yes, so 1st of April will be a Friday. So I know that I need to, let me just get this right. When you've done 12 in a row, it just comes really quickly. And because I did this 2 weeks ago, let me just really think about this. Yep. So I know now that I need to stamp, that's it. So yes, 1st of April is a Friday. So if I position the 1st onto the Friday like this and just offer it up, I now know that I need to ink with the 3, 10, 17, 24 and 31 to my right hand side of my ink pad, and this stamp has been designed specifically so it just fits the width of the ink pad. That's the really clever bit. So I know now that if I just ink those numbers, I'll be able to get the right position. Now the other thing I need to think about is 30 days have September, April, June and November, so I don't need 31. So what I need to do is just clean off 31. Let me just pop my stamp there. And to do that, I'm going to use a piece of clean chamois and a piece of scrap. I'll show you what I do with my piece of scrap. So I hold my block and I clean off 31 really carefully. And with my piece of scrap, I blot it, because sometimes a wet stamp still has a bit of residue on. So I just blot it, and now I can line that up. This is the tricky bit because I can't get right over the top. We said the 1st was a Friday, so now I can line that up with Friday, and I can pop my block down and stamp away. I now have my calendar for April. I'm just going to do May, and then we're done with the months. So I know the 1st of May is going to be a, is that right? 1st of May will be a Sunday. So if I pop Sunday and I move that across, we can see I now know that I need to ink for the 2, 9, 16, 23 and 30, 23 and 30 down my left hand side. But before I do any of that, I'm just going to clean off what I've just stamped, and I'm going to ink, and again it just fits perfectly across the width of the ink. And May has 31 days. 30 days of September, April, June and November, the rest of 31, yes, so I'm good. So now I can show you that I can stamp that starting on Sunday. Over, we're straight enough. So we're there or thereabouts. So now I've shown you how to use this. I just wanted to do it a couple of times just to show you the repeat and how you work it out. Now when I stamped my original, I actually had a 2022 calendar in front of me, and I turned it and just double checked my dates and days and dates, etc. I'm going to put that inky stamp in my box to clean later. So hopefully that's given you a demonstration of how to use the Days to Remember stamp set, and hopefully that's encouraged you that this is a really versatile stamp set. I'm just going to stand up. Oh, having problems. So I've dropped a few people. I'm hoping that I'm still live. Okay, can anyone who's still watching just give me a thumbs up or something? And I'm just going to crack on. So April, May, we've got all our months here. We'll just pop those to one side. So this should be quite a quick and easy Yeah, we've got some thumbs ups. That's lovely. I'm going to crack on. Hopefully that's Brenda's connection and not my connection. So I'm going to bring all my bits and pieces back in and we'll do some assembly. I just need to grab some basic white for stamping because I've realised, I'm still here, I've realised that for some reason I've tidied it up. So I've got some basic white for stamping my flowers. So let's go ahead and stick some of this together. It couldn't be easier. We're just going to stick the designer series paper to the base. Now I'm just going to hope that Mr. Tombow behaves because this is a new one from, ooh, it's a new old one if that makes sense. It's from the graveyard of Tombows that I have in my cupboard that really need using and not binning. Sometimes they just flow a bit too fast. So I'm going to go ahead and stick this piece onto the front. It's really simple. So that's one layer. And then I'm going to stick this piece inside. And you can use glue of your choice. We're only sticking flat. So if you want to use a tape glue, that's fine. As always, I prefer a wet glue, but we are all different. So I'm now going to stick this front piece to the front of my easel, and if you've never made an easel card before, what you need to bear in mind is that you only need to put glue on one half. Now because this piece is actually going to not have a border round when it's stuck down, I'm actually going to put my glue on the base rather than on the back of the standing piece. If you're making your front piece slightly smaller, then you would probably add the glue to the bottom, making sure that we pay attention to the direction of the pattern, and we just pop that down. And one of the reasons I love wet glue is that you get that bit of wiggle room. There we go. So now we've got our easel, and you can see the easel wants to fall down because we haven't got anything to prop it up with. Now for my original I used a plain yellow post-it pad, and for this one I'm going to go fancy. I'm going to use a lovely Stampin' Up post-it pad because I've got one in this colour and I thought that it would match. So I'm going to just peel off some of those post-it notes. I'll probably take about half of them from this Stampin' Up notepad, and I'm going to pop them just on the bottom there. Now you could use a sentiment if you didn't want to use a post-it pad. You could use a mini notebook. You could use, let me just think, what else could we use on the bottom here? A ribbon tied round with a bow. You needn't have a notepad. And for the next piece of assembly, let me just pop that to one side out of the way. For the next piece of assembly, I'm going to pop this piece of garden green right across, and that's where our months are going to go. So I'm actually going to pop that right across the middle there. I'm going to leave a bit of a gap at the bottom so that when it's standing the month is reasonably prominent, but bear in mind that I actually want to decorate with my flower there. So I'm actually going to go ahead and stick this straight down. Now I'm looking at my original and knowing that my flower image is going to want to tuck behind, but that's fine. I'm going to actually let it overlap the front because we're just going to construct this one slightly differently. So I will use wet glue. How funny. I just turned that over so I could glue the back, and the back's exactly the same as the front. So I'm just going to leave that gap at the bottom and place that there. And that just gives my months, my calendar, a background to stand on. Now, if we grab our calendar, Have a look. Let's have a look. Let's start with January because it would seem to be sensible, and I've probably just buried it somewhere. April and May, February. Where's January? There we are, January. Now you remember I said, because we can tuck our months behind, there's just a space for them, they can live there. Remember I said to you, don't throw away that little piece of designer series paper because we'll use it. She said, and she's forgotten where it is. Here we go. So I'm going to actually make some little corners for the month to tuck behind. Do you remember the old-fashioned photo albums that had photo corners? So I'm actually going to use my snips. You can use your trimmer if you want to. I'm going to just eyeball this and use my snips. Or should I use my trimmer? Let's be proper and use trimmer. Just so I can show you what I'm doing. We can be actually precise. I'm hoping that my trimmer's still on. So if I go 1.5 centimetres, so I'm looking at the 1.5 on this side rather than on this side, and I cut myself 2 little squares. Oh, hang on. They're not square. I think. I thought they were 1.5. They're actually 2. Apologies. 2 centimetres. 2 little squares at 2 centimetres. And you don't actually need 2. You can use just the 1. So we're going to cut them diagonally. So now I've got my little square, and I'm going to use my snips this time, and I'm going to cut that diagonally. And I'm going to use those as photographic corners. And if I get January and position that where I want it, I can then glue the little corners. And I'm going to be really, really careful and just use the thinnest of beads. Now this is when tweezers will be handy. The thinnest of beads of glue. She said, hoping that her glue will behave. Need a steady hand, because you only need the thinnest of beads of glue right around the square edges. Oh, and you need your tweezers, and you need to actually position your month where you want it to be, and then pop the corner, and I think actually we can go right up to each of those corners. So I'm going to pop one there, get it straight. Let's just slide that out. Yeah, I think that will work. Oh. So much easier when you're not on camera. And what you're trying to do is make yourself some photo corners. Now you can cut these corners a little bit bigger if you're finding that this is too much of a faff, but the knack really is just getting that glue in a really thin bead around the edge. Not putting too much on, and of course when you're not demonstrating live on camera you can allow this to dry for a little while and not move it. So I would just say to everybody, just take your time with this bit. There we go. Let's see what we can do. I'm pretty much thinking that actually if we go right down in this corner we'll be good. Now you could do just 2. You could do 4 if you're happy to do 4. The other alternative that you could do for just positioning, if you don't want to make a box, for just positioning your months, let me just move those out of the way, is you could actually find a nice fancy clip and clip your month into position, because remember this is a desk-based calendar. I'm not actually going to risk because that glue's not set. So we'll leave that glue to set, and then when we finish we'll pop January in there. So I'm going to move on to stamping my images. Let me just pop that back on my tweezers before I lose it. So I'm going to move on to stamping my images and die cutting and adding a bit of colour. Now I'm going to use Memento Black, Tuxedo Black Memento ink to stamp both my flower and my bee. Remembering that Tuxedo Black Memento ink is a felt pad and not a sponge pad, so you need to really tap, tap, tap. It's not stored in the same way as our Stampin' Up ink, so you need to tap, tap, tap and get that ink to the surface. And we're just going to go straight down, and I'm going to apply a bit of even pressure and let that ink have good contact with my white cardstock so I get a nice even image. And I want to just show you what I meant by distinctive, so we can see that this image is not a solid black line. Hopefully the camera can pick up that these little bits of the image inside the flowers is a bit paler, and it's just a bit what's the word, a bit more vintage. You'll see what I mean with the bee. So tap, 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 plenty of tapping. It's a capillary action, so if you remember, I've said this before, if you build a sandcastle on the beach and you pat it and the water eventually rises to the top, it's the same when you tap, tap, tap a felt ink pad. You get the ink coming to the top. Now you'll see what I mean if I hold that up. You should be able to see that it's not a solid black image. It's a bit more like a photograph. It's pixelated, that's the word. It's a bit, you can see the pixels. So I'm going to add some colour to these images. So I'm going to use my Stampin' Blends. I'm going to use Calypso Coral. I'm going to use Pool Party, I think. Yeah, Pool Party. I'm going to use Daffodil Delight and Granny Apple Green. And I'm going to start with the flower, and I'm going to start with the light Calypso Coral, and these are alcohol markers, and that's why I've used the Memento ink. And I'm just going to quickly add some colour. I'm not thinking too much about how I'm adding it because I'm going to add shade in a second when I've coloured. First layer of colour straight down. Now you can use the brush end, you can use the fine end, it's entirely up to you, depends on how confident you're feeling with the edges, the size of the image. Now just a word about Stampin' Blends. These are not a refillable pen, they're a soft felt nib, and because the nib is quite soft, perhaps compared to other alcohol markers that are on the market, they are classed as a consumable item. So it pays to just consider that when you're using the brush end, not to add too much pressure. If you're colouring a small area, it's useful to use the, sometimes the lids are a bit stiff. It pays to use the smaller end. So now I'm just going to add a bit more depth of colour, a little bit darker in the middle. And again, I'm not going to spend hours colouring in. It's not really the focal point of the finished article. That would be the calendar. This is just something that's going to decorate it. So I'm going to add a little bit of colour, light and shade. And then I'm going to go back to where I've just added that colour and blend the dark into the light so you don't have a harsh line, and that will just blend in nicely. And again, it's just a pop of colour. So little flowers, let's use some Granny Apple Green. Again, I'm going to start with the light colour, and I'll probably use the nib end ever so quick. I really love these markers for speed. And yes, you can do some really fancy alcohol marker pen colouring techniques. but for a project like this, it's just a case of something really quick and simple. Just adding a pop of colour, not worrying about it. We'll just blend that really quickly. Let me just add, in fact, there's a little leaf there, let's add a pop of colour to that. So if I just hold that up to the camera, hopefully you can see where I've added a bit of tone and shade. Now I'm going to colour in my lovely bumblebee. Oh, I will need basic grey. I've not used black, I've used the dark basic grey, not granite grey. Dark basic grey for the black parts of the bumblebee. So my darker one, and we'll just add some of that to the body of the bee so it gets a proper stripe. And maybe the legs. And the head. And the other benefit of using grey, not black, is you can still see the bee's eye. It just doesn't disappear. And I'm going to use Daffodil Delight, the yellow bits, and I can add again a little bit of shade just to one side. That just picks that up. Now I'm going to go in and use Light Pool Party on the wings. Just makes the wings stand out a bit more, and I'm going to actually add a little touch of Wink of Stella. Probably doesn't show up very well on camera, but I know it's there, just on those wings. Let me just again hold that up. Let's see if I can get that on camera to focus. If I tilt it, you might see the Wink of Stella, you might not. Now I'm going to die cut these. I'm just going to pop all my pens to one side and my inky stamps for cleaning later. Clear the work surface. And I'm going to bring in my mini machine, and I'm just going to die cut these two. So Honeybee Blooms dies, I'm going to use the image for the flower, and I'm going to try and pick the right bee. And perfect for using your mini machine with. So I just need to build my sandwich on the platform. Might need to trim that down a bit. In fact, I will. Let's get my big scissors. Another good reason to trim down, if you've got two images on one piece of cardstock, another good reason to trim it down into two individuals is so that you can position the dies. And hopefully my cold hands, I can just run these through with one pass, and hopefully they're not going to jump. And of course you can use a piece of washi tape to hold them in place, but once you've got them, what I find, I think that bee's not going to cut quite right, but we're just going to go for it. What I find is once you've got them in position, if you keep your fingers and thumbs nipping the plates together as you start to wind before you transfer your weight to the top, and that's just jumped. I'm going to actually just get rid of my bee. I'll just do my bee separately. Trying to save time by passing them both through at the same time, but the lovely thing about dies is that they do cut your image and you don't need to fussy cut. So turning your plates regularly as well helps things to not skip about. There we go. That's better. I do love my mini machine, it's so portable. I love my big machine, but for the little tiny dies it's great to have your little mini machine. And I'm desperate to share with you a project that I've just made as a team gift, but I can't share it because I've not actually distributed them yet, but I've just made some team gifts that are a tool to use as well. So I'm really dying to show you, but I can't. So the next thing we need to do to decorate this is pop our year at the top. So I'm going to stick my numbers. So I've already pre-cut my 2022 just to save a bit more time. And this time I'm not going to get my numbers wonky. So what I'm going to just do is I'm going to grab a ruler and I'm going to get, what I could do with is some grid sheet, but I don't want to get a big piece of grid sheet out, so I'll just grab a piece of small, this is really handy even if you're not using a Stamperatus, one of the Stamperatus grid sheet pads. I'm going to use a piece of that because it's small enough that I don't have to disturb the whole desk. Let's get the bits out that I need. My numbers, and I'm going to try and get this nice and straight this time because I looked at my other one and thought that's as wonky as anything is. What have you done? So I'm going to position my label using the grid, so you can see I've lined the bottom up with a grid. I'm now going to use my ruler and place that along another grid line that I want the bottom of my numbers to sit on. Now if I want to anchor it down, anchor the whole lot down, I can just use some pieces of old washi tape and just stick that down so I know it's not going to skip about. And I just have a roll of old washi tape, and if I've used pieces I just pop it back on the roll and stick it on my desk. Dead handy. So when you're doing a number like this, it's always tempting to start with the first number, but if you work from the middle and go out, you'll find it easier, find it better. So I need to just give myself some space here. Let's stick the ruler down like that, because the numbers need to go right to the edge. Stick the number down, and let's use that other piece on the top there. Belt and braces. So yeah, it's really tempting to sort of go right from the beginning and work your way across. Now what you can do is position it and just check where does it start, where does it finish. So you could start with the first one. I need to move that up a bit. This is probably really tedious to be watching me doing this. I do apologise. But all these little tips mean that you'll get something nice and straight at the end. Now what did I do with my glue? And the other tip that I've shared with you many times is to use, I'm just looking for it, use your silicone sheet or non-stick sheet. So I'll pop my silicone sheet there, grab a piece of sponge, and this is a piece I use for glue all the time, and make a little puddle of your wet glue. And lay your numbers upside down on your silicone sheet and use your glue sponge. And I'm going to use my take your pick tool actually for picking these up. So I'm going to use the putty end, and I'm going to just use the other end just to hold it down like that. Go in with a finger because I always do. Now I want to flip it over and pick it up. Come on, naughty two. I've got glue everywhere. But it doesn't matter when it's on your silicone sheet. And if you get glue on the outside, you can dab it off with a piece of kitchen towel. So go in like this. Let's see if I can do that with my fingers. See, I don't mind being quite dexterous with my fingers, but some people just don't like handling anything with wet glue on. Now I made more mess on that first two using a tool than using my fingers, but it's entirely up to you how you progress. But definitely a sponge and a silicone mat helps when you're spreading glue on the back of something really small. particularly if you've not got any fingernails at all. I'm surprised I've still got fingernails after gardening the other day. There we are. Now I'm hoping that my belt and braces approach to getting this straight has worked. Let's get rid of that wet glue out of the way. And let's have a look. And I think that 2022 is a little bit straighter than my first one, so that's ready to stick on. And get rid of these bits out of the way. And let's finish our project. So I'm going to lay this down. I'm going to start by sticking my flower on, and I'm quite happy with my flower poking above the top of my desk calendar. Remember that this is a desk calendar, it's not a card to go in the post. And actually this time I think what I'm going to do is stick the bottom with glue, but stick a dimensional behind the flower head. So right up at the top I'm going to pop a dimensional, and then at the bottom I'm going to pop some glue, wet glue, and just gently at the bottom take that off, and we can pop that there. It doesn't matter if it's proud of the top, like I said, and we can pop our 2022 up on dimensionals this time, because we don't have to have it flat, because the original had pockets and this one can actually be up on a dimensional. Or four. And we'll pop that there. And we can add our bee, and our little bee can be up on a dimension. Let's see if I've got any minis kicking around. I think I've got some mini. And we'll just pop that bee there, and then we'll see if we can add our month. So let's have that lovely little bee flying in. So there we go. Same but different. And we can add our January. Let's see if these corners have worked. So we should be able to just tuck a corner in there, and hopefully tuck a corner in there. I've got a feeling it's not going to have worked because I'm on camera. Marvellous. Where are we? Let's have a look, see what we can do. Loosen it. Can't believe it worked lovely with this one. It's always the same when you want to show off. It's in the right position, but I think it's just a little bit too far over. So let's see what we can do to rectify this. We'll leave those there. Let's see if we can actually rectify the whole situation. What did I do with my extra pieces? I think I might have binned them. Oh, sure I had them just to one side. I'll throw them back in there. Oh no, I've thrown them in here in the scrap bin. So here's my little piece that I had left. Let's see what we can do to rectify this whole situation. Let's cut some more corners. Let's make them a tiny bit bigger. And actually what I did on my original ones, I think I cut the corners off for some reason. Not quite sure why. Let's see what we can do. Doesn't look square, but hey. See if we can add some more on the top. Oh, I hope you've all not gone to sleep. I do apologise for this not working. as it should have. Let's see, get that to just work. Pretty sure it should do. It's in the right place. And I wanted to just say that that flower positioned in front of the piece of green works. Doesn't have to be tucked behind. The frustrating thing is that I know right behind me, to my left hand side, in my drawer, I've got some actual photo corners for using actual photo albums, because I use them in scrapbooking. That's so frustrating. I could just get them out of the drawer, but then that wouldn't be showing you the DSP. Anyway, I encourage you to play with corners and just take your time positioning them, and they should work. And then you can store your extra months for the rest of the year just behind. Oh, goodness me, I've got a drunk bee now. What's going on? It's a disaster. It's a disaster. Because I didn't peel the backing off. There we go. All is not lost. Keep calm and carry on crafting. And let's just clear these bits out of the way. And we'll show the two different ones side by side. And I think you can see them on camera at that angle, but I'm just going to see if I can amend the angle slightly and see whether that just, ooh, there we go. With my arm, if I just move those back a little bit, you can see them perhaps at the right angle. So they are same but different, and one has a little box that was just a step too far in terms of crafting, and this one has a front that you just pop the relevant month. Now what I wanted to show was, in case you just grab this side, if you had a fancy clip, for example, like this, you could pin the month of the year on without any of that faffing with corners. That's what I had in mind, and I knew that that was just the one side. And of course, if you don't have the Days to Remember stamp set, then you could buy the little calendars from the shop, the little paper calendars that you can stick on and rip off. If you're making these as gifts, you might want to do that, but I would encourage you to look at this Days to Remember stamp set and think about the versatility in terms of using it, not just for desk calendars. This is exactly the project I had in mind when I saw and bought this stamp set, but then realised that we had Happy Birthday in there and this little circle in particular, and it works brilliantly for birthday cards, those special cards, somebody's big 5-0, big 4-0, big whatever-o, somebody's wedding anniversary, absolutely gorgeous when you stamp the heart over the top of the actual date. It's really super, so I would encourage you not to bypass this. It's not an expensive stamp set, and now I've demonstrated actually how to stamp the months and the dates underneath the relevant day of the week. Hopefully that's encouraged you. Right, I'm going to spin my camera around. I don't think there was anything else that I needed to share with you, but I've just got a funny angle on my camera now. I'm probably going to be too high, bear with me. Woo. Hello, I'm back in the room. Yes, I'm too high. I'll zoom away because my camera's on a funny angle. So thank you again for joining me. I hope you've enjoyed the demonstration. I hope I've encouraged you to look in the new January to June mini catalogue at the bundle that I've used today. I've lost my catalogue, here we are. At the Heart and Home Suite, and in particular the Honeybee bundle that I've used today. So that's the Honeybee Home bundle, and that is £42.25 for the stamp set and the dies matching. You save 10% with the bundle, or the stamp set is £21. It's a photopolymer. No, it's a cling. What kind of day am I having today? And the Honeybee Blooms dies are £26 on their own, and they work really well with the mini Stampin' Cut and Emboss machine. So I hope I have encouraged you. Remember, if you were to purchase that bundle at £42 and 25 pence, all you would need to add on is another £2.75 worth of kit, so you could buy yourself some Tombow glue and you would qualify for a celebration freebie. Of course, if you are ordering from me, don't forget to use the host code. I know I didn't show you that right at the top of the demonstration, but you'll find my current host code on my Facebook page pinned to the top. Please do use the host code if you're ordering online, and that will get you an extra freebie in the post later from me. It won't arrive with your order, it will arrive later in the post from me with a handmade card as well, to say thank you for ordering. So thanks again for watching. If you're watching on catch up and you've enjoyed what you've seen, please give me a thumbs up. If you are watching on my YouTube channel later and you've enjoyed the demonstration and you enjoy my channel, please give me a follow and give me a thumbs up there as well. I appreciate any feedback, any comments in the comments box on Facebook or indeed on YouTube, and I always follow the comments and usually reply fairly speedily. So once again, keep calm, keep crafting, carry on, and see you all soon in another demo. Bye for now. Bye.